Hey there, film fans. I'm Jeff.
I'm Dave.
I'm John, and welcome back to The Love of Cinema, a pod in which we'll challenge one another to discuss movies, both new and old, with a strictly positive critical eye.
That's right, and to avoid any lazy negativity, we're making this here episode a drinking game.
Ooh.
Any negative criticism about a film is allowed. Of course, it happens. We can't help ourselves. It's the truth. Sometimes we got to speak it out. But we hate it at the same time, so we make it a drinking game. Anytime we say something negative about a film, you hear this sound, and that sound means that we are taking a drink. I'll go ahead and do it right now since I have the buzzer.
So, pour yourselves a glass, and let's get into some martinis, shaken, not stirred.
Dave, that is not anything that Bond would drink unless Bond was at Oktoberfest on retirement. Why do you have a full liter pitcher of beer
What are you
filled to the
talking
brim?
about? This is normal. I've seen Thor drink this.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that is a gigantic mug.
I
Of
think
beer,
everyone by now knows it's gigantic because you can hear every time I put it down on the fucking microphone.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, moving along.
Okay, so we're going to get into our new Bond segment. We all went to the cinemas to check this out. Just quick reminder to all of our friends, family, and anybody who is new. We keep it spoiler-free for a couple minutes. So that way, if you haven't seen this movie, you can get our initial takeaways. What did we think? Do we recommend it? Etc. And then hopefully I'll remember this time to send people on their way before the spoilers
We will
come
shout
up.
from the rooftops.
Give it 10 minutes, people. We'll tell you what we think if you haven't seen this movie yet. John, before we get into it, why don't we shout our people out?
Shout out to our people. Carlos Barroso is our beer sponsor. If you want to give him a little follow on Instagram, I'm sure he would appreciate it. The handle is Barroso Bar 2019. That's CBARROZOBAR 2019. And if you're digging the music on this episode and every single episode, it's provided by the artist Dasein. That's Dasein, Dasein. Head on over to soundcloud.com/Dasein-artist, and you can download all that music for free. Support us, love us, like us, share us. We are at the Love of Cinema Pod on all the platforms except for Twitter. We're just at the Love of Cinema there. But please come at us. Listen to Jeff burp.
He's bitter about Twitter.
My mouth is closed. I'm covering my mouth. I don't. Yeah, I am mad about Twitter.
Weirdest burp noises.
Twitter does. I can't do Love of Cinema Pod because it was too many characters on Twitter. So I am mad about Twitter. It sucks. People, we're talking about No Time to Die. This is the new Bond movie, which was delayed 18 months. We're talking about 2 full-term pregnancies. This movie was delayed. It was so long ago. But we made it. We made it. Ana de Armas is like, can I just be a star yet? Why do you keep putting this off?
Yeah, she's like, I'm going to go and do some other things to get famous in that, and then, this will turn up.
Right. And then everybody gets to leave the theater and go, oh, right, Knives Out. Totally.
Yep.
Okay. We finally saw this movie. Here it is. Can I hype Dave? Can you talk about IATSE at the end of this episode? Dave's a member, right? Dave, are you proud
I'm
carrying?
I'm a member of the Local 1 Theatrical.
Oh, okay.
So we're not Film IATSE, but we did get the call to go out and support if they go.
Shout out.
So.
All right. Well, there you go. Cool. Well, we'll keep everybody posted. I know everybody's probably hearing little snippets here and there. To me, the car accidents thing and people sleeping like 2 hours because, as everybody knows, everybody on the crew, they are the ones that are doing all of the work while the actors get to sleep their pretty faces off every single night. Okay, cool. Well, shout out to that. Let's get into it, people. This is it. No Time to Die, Universal Pictures, the Broccoli's, Barbara Broccoli. She's back with Daniel Craig. And I believe John's segment, right as we were getting into this, after John remembered that this is the movie that we're doing this week, John goes, his first reaction was, Carrie! Which, of course, means Cary Fukunaga as the director and co-writer and also as the story credit. But he is at the helm. So exciting. Emmy Award winner for True Detective for directing season 1 is at the helm. Beast of No Nation. He's an awesome director. Daniel Craig is back, and I think everybody knows this is going to be his last one. Here's his send-off, Daniel Craig. And then you have well, they were newcomers when they were cast, I imagine, Ana de Armas, but not anymore. You have Léa Seydoux is back. So they're rekindling the relationship that she has had with Bond in previous films. Rami Malek as the villain that freaked everybody out, or at least creeped everybody out in the trailer. And you have Latasha Lynch as another 00 agent who may or may not be borrowing the 007 moniker. You have Ben Whishaw as Q, Ray Fiennes officially as M, Naomi Harris is back as Money Penny, Rory Kinnear as Tanner, Jeffrey Wright, shout out. Somehow he's stretched his way into almost all of these Daniel Craig Bond movies after being awesome in Casino Royale. Billy Magnuson with a little bit of shout out. And of course, Christoph Waltz is back, reprising his role as Blofeld from Spectre. Film.
This does wrap up that whole section, I guess. So like it's kind of like, you know, Guardians of the Galaxy 1, 2, and 3. It's like it's a running story. So
yes.
you couldn't wrap this up and not have him back.
And
he's,
I like
he's
that
great
because
yeah.
the Pierce Brosnans, they just kept getting bigger and more wild and more ridiculous to the point where a satellite from the sky was like hitting a mouse with a laser on ice, and it got really, really crazy with the Pierce Brosnan movies. But I actually do really like the symmetry and the arc of the Daniel Craig Bond character. So it starts with Casino Royale in 2006, Quantum of Solace is 2008, which was done during the writer's strike. So there was John, you saw Quantum of Solace recently, right?
Yeah, I watched this whole franchise.
No, you're right.
This past year, actually.
Oh. Skyfall 2012 and Spectre 2015, and then this one, of course, years later, but it was supposed to come out last year. So yes, Quantum of Solace, and Daniel Craig has not been shy about how frustrating it was to be on set, and they decided to continue filming even though they did not have a completed script, and nobody would finish the script because of the writer's strike. Nobody was going to go ahead and cross that line, so he was literally filming without a completed script. Really, really cool. So he apparently was complaining about it.
It still holds the record though for the largest explosion caught on film, I think.
Have you seen? I've been watching like the behind the scenes of that, and it's so funny. All the things that are like, were they like, don't blink, don't blink.
Yeah, we got one shot at this.
Wait, that's Skyfall, right? Or
no, Quantum.
the largest explosion?
Quantum of Solace, largest explosion ever caught on film.
The Skyfall one's big.
I thought the Skyfall was. Anyway, whatever.
And then I forget where we left off. So then he gets Sam Mendes involved. Apparently he asks him at a party, and then the next day realized he was drunk and asked somebody to direct a Bond movie, so he had to call Barbara Broccoli, and it's like, is it okay if Academy Award winner Sam Mendes directs the next one and eventually 2 Bond movies? Yada, yada, yada. Skyfall kind of gets things back and going again. Spectre was the last one, which everybody kind of felt was a little incomplete. It was not as satisfying as Skyfall, so they decided to come back for one more, even though Daniel Craig is in his 50s. I think we know the drill. Before I get into the introduction to the storyline, John, is there anything else from your rewatch of these films that you think would be helpful in setting up our discussion?
Go ahead and set up the plot of this one, but I will kick us off after you explain the plot for kind of what I think could be helpful for us to think about as we move into our discussion.
Nice. And I watched Skyfall again this past week because it's on Hulu.
Controversially, don't like Skyfall.
Yeah.
Okay, wait, funny. I always... Yeah, I keep missing that. Sorry, Dave. Yeah, Dave, buzz yourself.
Drink your liter of beer in judgment.
So Skyfall has the highest rating other than Casino Royale, which, first of all, Casino Royale is the best out of these series. Casino Royale was wildly successful in so many ways, especially after the shit that Daniel Craig got just for being cast, because apparently not every single person had seen Layer Cake. Those assholes, right? Oh my god, he's blonde and he's a little shorter. And then they saw Casino Royale and they went, okay, cool. Yeah, this is great. He made Bond playing poker the most interesting fucking action this has in 10 years. But then Skyfall had the highest rating, so I rewatched it recently. And I admit I liked it so much less this time than when I saw it in the theater. So I don't know if it's just the allure of the action, of the hits, of the cars and the things with Bond, and getting back to the martini, shaken not stirred, unlike Skyfall where they were starting to sort of play with those conventions a little bit. I really thought, I was like, this is not the best script. It's kind of cheesy at some points, and I just...
Wait, which one are you talking about?
Skyfall. Casino? No, Casino's awesome. Skyfall, I was like, okay, well, this is clearly an M send-off, or for Judi Dench, and I just didn't. And Javier Bardem he did everything he could. It just didn't seem. It seemed like they could have gone further. It seemed like they could have had another draft. I don't know. That was just me. That's me.
We're really padding out, getting to No Time to Die.
Sorry. Okay. Here's the storyline. This is on IMDb, but this is as sent by Universal Pictures. The storyline for No Time to Die, the film we're talking about today that just came out. Bond has left active service and is enjoying a tranquil life in Jamaica. They kind of skipped some, didn't they? Didn't they skip the whole? Anyway, fine. He's retired in Jamaica. His peace is short-lived when his old friend Felix Leiter, as played by Jeffrey Rush, from the CIA, turns up asking for help. The mission to rescue a kidnapped scientist turns out to be far more treacherous
Did you pregame this episode?
Fuck.
Jeff, are you hitting the right button? Because John's buzzer keeps going off on my
I'm
screen.
just hitting John every time. Every time I drink, I'm just fucking buzzing. All right, so they try to kidnap the scientist. It's far more treacherous than expected, leading Bond onto a trail of a mysterious villain armed with dangerous new technology. Okay, John, back to you.
So I think the thing that is unavoidable with the Daniel Craig anthology within the franchise of the larger James Bond anthology is that they very consciously decided with Casino Royale, and I guess I'll ask you guys if you also think it's true, that unlike the previous Bonds, this James Bond was going to be deeply affected by the women that come into his life. They were going to use the female characters as his main obstacles, not in a story sense, and just as a plot device, like the way they were sometimes used that way in the older James Bond movies. The earlier relationship that he has in the first one haunts him throughout this entire series, his 5 movies of the series. And I think that it's something that you always try to think about when you're watching these. It's why I think a lot of people enjoy this chunk of the franchise so much, is that he is more humanized because he's so flawed. So, when you meet him in Casino Royale, like he's becoming 007. And you see him take this on for the first time. You see him have to deal with the death of the first woman at the beginning of that movie, and you see him have to deal with the death of his deep love at the end of that one. And I guess I'm just gonna, as we move forward in this conversation, I did personally kind of feel like they were really pushing that, and for better or for worse. And it kind of felt like this was just as they said farewell to this particular Bond, and as they maybe said farewell to this particular kind of way they're going to tell James Bond stories, I couldn't stop thinking about the fact that they really wanted us to feel like James Bond was a human being on his way out. So for me, I really enjoyed this Bond movie, and I will also say that I don't think it felt like most of the other Bond movies, Daniel Craig's Bond movies or previous Bond movies. Do you guys agree with that? Do you guys disagree with that? Or did it change the way you felt about this one? Or did you feel like structurally it felt like every other James Bond movie?
I will say it definitely felt not like classic Bond, that's for sure. They have come a long way since the good work, pat on the butt, and live and let die. Which I still can't get past. It's misogynist as shit. But like this in this, it's great that like the female characters are definitely more than just they're not a device for him to go through as such. So, and this one really did flesh that out a lot more than the previous ones, I guess. But I think I like where they're going with this. I like the fact that the women aren't just something to be conquered and move on and then turn up dead somewhere, and that inspires him to fight the bad guy. It's like the women in this one are a lot stronger. They have, like, for instance, Paloma, Ana de Armas' character. I could have seen more of that. That was like fresh air. That was like a little breath of fresh air. She was like, I've had 3 weeks training and I'm on a mission with you, and then all hell breaks loose, and she just copes with it.
She's fucking awesome. Yeah,
it was an awesome scene. I could have seen her come back for more, to be honest, especially considering she's on, 50% of the promotional material.
What the hell? The marketing team saw the dress and was like, okay, she is going to be on every single poster, even though what we're saying.
No, I absolutely get what you're saying, and I definitely think they went that way on purpose, and I, for one, enjoyed this movie because they did.
I mean, yeah, I enjoyed this movie a lot too. I think back to Casino Royale, where you take the dueling characters of his first love and Vesper, but also the girl who he was trying to woo, to kind of sleep with, but he realized he had to go to the airport. If you remember that in Casino Royale, and so he orders champagne for one and leaves. He doesn't sleep with her and then leave like the old ones would have. But also Bond is the one who's shirtless, not the girls in the first one. So they do like the bikini reveal, the famous one with the white bikini that Austin Powers makes fun of. But it's Bond. And then there was actually literally in the script apparently supposed to be a Vesper Lind who's Ava Green, that she was supposed to be showering in Almost Nothing. And it was Daniel Craig that was like, wait, I thought our plan was that this is going to be different. Like if she's that shattered because she has an inner turmoil that surpasses maybe any Bond female of all time, the Vesper Lind conundrum, where she's sort of being played by so many different sides and a different lover and different organizations, and there's threaten and blackmail, and she's playing Bond better than anybody has ever played Bond. He's like, she would just go in the shower in her dress. And so that's why she's in the shower in her dress. But they had written that to be a scene without it. So they were like, no, this is who we are now. And so, yeah, I think it's incredible. And the fact that the Léa Seydoux character keeps coming back up. This movie opens, this cold open that they didn't talk about in the storyline, but it's in the past. And it's not even in Bond's past. It's in Léa Seydoux's character's past. And it's very intimate. Like, I don't know if any Bond movie, we had like close-ups of like a little girl waking up in bed and like walking to the kitchen. Like that didn't feel like a Bond movie at all. But then when you see Rami Malek's character, at least we think so at the time, like with a giant gun walking through the snow, then it's like, oh yeah, this is like all those other Bond movies and all the Bond villains and stuff. So it's like right away you can already tell that it has the guns and the that kind of high espionage drama, but also that it's going to be intimate. And they just set it up with behavior. Not even with the storyline. But the car chases, the action sequence, the one that they keep showing in Italy, in all the trailers and stuff, that feels like a Bond movie for sure. But you're right, John. It is so rooted and so grounded, and a lot of it is the relationships that he has, the relationships that he keeps, because he still keeps to himself, but people affect him, and I think that's fucking awesome. And I think that he should be Daniel Craig. Obviously, is. He shouldn't listen to me, but he should be really fucking.
I'll give it this. It is very well directed. Like, there is so much subtlety in this that you don't normally get in a Bond film.
Yeah.
You mean from like the performances and the
performances, just little bits of action. I'll get into more later when we can throw spoilers around, but that's for later. But yeah, just like the action, the character relationships, little bits of business that they did, and stuff like that. So yeah, I found this very well directed.
Yeah, honestly, it's folks. This is a long one. This is a 2:43. I think I need to go see it again. To be honest with you, I feel like I was so excited. I've been anticipating this one. Really big fan of this franchise, and even though it didn't make it into our Corona face-off, we kind of clarified why. There's just too many of them. But I love Daniel Craig's Bond, so I was really looking forward to this. And I remember I was happy in the theater, and I was happy when I left the theater. I was a little sad, to be honest with you. We'll talk about it once we get into the spoiler section, but I think I need to go watch it again because it was just so much story. It was like a 5-act story.
Yeah.
Which was, again, it was cool. It kind of felt like you were watching it's almost like our mini series mind, the way we think now. I feel like I just binged like 5 or 6 episodes like at once. Yeah. But yeah, in so many fun ways, it did not feel like a Bond movie. The way he subverted the structure, there's no chase at the beginning. Most of these movies open with just a really action-packed.
There's a chase in the open. That's still the.
I mean, yeah, the opening is like 25 minutes long.
I'm gonna push against that because all the other movies in this franchise open with a chase.
Yeah,
like it's literally within the first few minutes it begins, and it's most of the exposition is showing you where he is, and then it ends with him.
Yeah, I think that's
this one has a cool cold open.
Yeah.
Yeah, it took a while to get there, and the way it gets there, sound design. There's this crazy explosion without giving anything details away. Crazy explosion. They do such an interesting thing to it pulls you into Bond's perspective for the first time. Because Jeff's right. I think that the open before that is it's not really concentrating on only his perspective. It's a really interesting technical way they get you into his point of view. And then you're angry and you're confused with him, and then it takes off. It's a really cool, interesting thing. It was very effective.
I love that this takes off, then settles down into some story, and then it takes off again. But like there's a lot of meat in there in the middle. Not once was I looking at my watch going, "How long has this got to go?"
Which again is why these movies pop. Jeff, you made a joke about it earlier, but everyone still kind of laughs like, is Casino Royale still the best one? There's so little action in that movie. He's compared to, in your mind, you think of the action sequences when you think of Casino Royale. When you actually watch it, a lot of the most tense and affecting moments are the very long scenes around the poker table and just around the casino itself. And so, I mean, that's why these movies really stand out for me. These are not cheap one-liner space fillers between the action scenes like some of the earlier Bonds. You know, I still enjoy them, but some people can criticize them for being that. The drama in this is just so grounded. There's so much story that you don't, the action is there, but only because it's earned. You're really just watching this man go through this terrible saga.
I loved, so, and they're definitely, I think they're playing with the Bond legacy and the Daniel Craig legacy perfectly. So, for instance, he's back to ordering martini shake and nut which he did in Skyfall, but you know, in Casino Royale, he very famously was like, does it look like I give a damn? Because the stakes were so high that, like, even his drink, like, he wasn't really the first thing on his mind. The opening of Casino Royale, he gets his 2 kills to become a 000, which is a brilliant opening, right? And the first kill is not clean and crisp like Pierce Brosnan. He has to strangle a guy in a bathroom, and they're like ripping down the urinals. And you're wondering how they're going to play with the whole Bond thing, if they're going to completely change the character. And then the second one is it ends up being that guy. And then it ends, this cold open ends with Daniel Craig washing his face in the bathroom, and the guy gets up to shoot him, and Daniel Craig turns around like bloody and wet and disgusting, and he does the famous Bond shooting right down the barrel with the eye thing, going right into the Chris Cornell song. And I remember fucking screaming in the theater.
Yeah, it's so good.
I shouted. So I went. He was like, yes, considerably. And then he's washing his face, and then the guy gets up and goes, bam, and then da da da, and then the Chris Cornell song. I was like, because I played GoldenEye so many times, so that fucking image is, and it's like, God damn it. And then in this movie, go ahead. Sorry.
Did you pick up on the quick homage during the action of like the I won't go into it, but the action in the end scene? He does the same thing in that corridor, and they did a quick,
which is He did it in the corridor, and he did it in his perfect form, of course.
Yes.
But,
so good.
But what's funny is they actually.
I wonder how many times
movie.
they shot that.
We're almost done with our spoilers, by the way, for our people. We're very spoiler free. He did the open, like the traditional open. They did it anyway, so it's almost like the other one was a bonus because you almost didn't expect it because they already did. Doesn't matter. Anyway, so this one, after the 25-minute kind of double cold open that they did, this one, it ends with the love of his life, and he doesn't know if he can trust her or not. So I guess this is sort of spoilery, but I'll say I'll stop there. I'll stop there, and I'll just say I just want to say the song.
Oh yeah.
The Bond movie's famous because you have to sit through this fucking song every single time, which most people love, but do we really love that? You know what I mean? I can't tell you how many times I've praised quick exposition in this. Now I have to sit there for 4 minutes and watch the story editors get credit before the movie starts. But
when I watch these at home, I usually skip the song.
Yeah, of course.
Of
course. But the way that this song comes in this time is the opposite of Casino Royale, where it's just like you're sitting there and you're like, what? And then all of a sudden the song starts, and it's very mellow and beautiful, and it's like
not just that, like all the graphics of the montage, it like jumps between the old style and like almost like a Westworld style new computer graphics style.
Right on, exactly.
And then the exit from that, like, was amazing. Like the whole spin into the actual film. This is the first time during a Bond intro I've sat there and gone, oh, it's over?
Yeah. Well, and I was in the theater, and this is the first time where like the song comes, and everybody's just like still. You know, usually there's some hullabaloo. People can talk a little bit. People can start to move around. I was in a packed Friday night opening weekend theater, and everybody was just like still when this song, and then Billie Eilish's song. Anyway.
Before we move into spoiler territories, I have to get something off my mind. 2 things off my chest. Number 1, I went and saw this in IMAX. Yeah. If you buy a ticket to IMAX and you're in the middle seat, fucking get there early. These IMAX is done like a Broadway. Like, if you fall, you're not going to stop falling for a couple of rows. So fucking get there early. Then you won't have to squeeze past my legs and get all pissed off when I'm like, you're only half getting out of your way. Okay, 2.
Wait, I'm pausing. That has nothing to do with the movie. But I mean.
2.
You admit that you show up 20 minutes after movie starts, so
I do not. No, this one I was there in time to see the stupid game thing they play now.
because the line was very long.
And so yeah, and the number 2, I went and saw this in IMAX because it was shot for IMAX. It was filmed for IMAX.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know whether, like, if anyone else who's already seen this film will relate to this, but I don't know whether anyone who's seen it's noticed. But 40 minutes in, it goes to a 2.39 aspect. Only the first 40 minutes was shot for IMAX. Now, apparently they're using some pretty creative wording in marketing called filmed for IMAX instead of filmed in IMAX. Now, if you go to a filmed for IMAX, apparently you're not getting the whole film in IMAX. They're going to bounce back and forth between aspect ratios. And if we're getting 40 minutes out of a 2-hour and 40-minute film filmed for IMAX, you're charging an extra $8? That's a fucking money grab.
Wait, they didn't even do the final sequence at IMAX?
No, only the first 40 minutes.
Why did they say, okay, that's it?
I have no idea why they did this,
It's
but
not money.
I know
It's not
at
the
one point I
budget.
noticed, and I'm like, and I started paying attention to it. I'm like, is this coming back? But no, it's not. So, like, yeah, I really can't recommend the IMAX screening because you get, like, although in its defense, that opening sequence is fucking awesome in IMAX. If you want to pay the extra $8 for that, go for it. But yeah, it's not a full IMAX movie, and that irked me a little because marketing should not be fucking lying to us like that.
Those lawyers are so.
They lied on the poster
Totally true.
twice.
You know what? All of the lawyers that came up with that bullshit.
Yeah. Take that, lawyers. All
It's
right.
never a bad thing hearing Hans Zimmer in IMAX, though. What do you guys think of Hans's first James Bond score? Did it just sound like Hans Zimmer, or did it sound like James Bond?
You know what's funny? I didn't realize
No.
it was Hans, but
Yeah, there was Bond.
He famously talks about how he always writes everything in D, and you can sort of hear it because it's the lowest note that he can play in the settings. And I thought I heard something that sounded like a generic, like underscore. Yeah, they always.
Yeah, I thought he had a great
Yeah,
time.
it
It sounded
was
like
great, it
Hans
was
Zimmer's
great.
Bond score. It was wonderful. I loved it. Well,
All right.
let's jump over the precipice and acknowledge the inevitable that everybody already knows, but we're going to talk details.
We're going
Spoilers,
spoilers.
baby,
You're in spoiler
spoilers.
zone.
Now is the
Spoilers,
time
spoilers,
to
spoiler.
tune out if you're listening in Australia, because they haven't got the movie yet. Incidentally,
Ryan? Oh, no, he's not.
I was looking at our stats this week, and I saw a lot of downloads from Wisconsin. Wisconsin, we see you listening.
Thanks, Wisconsin.
It was
Yeah.
dancing. Yeah. So let me kick it off if you guys don't mind. I left the theater very sad the other night. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, you're gonna jump into the biggest one of all?
I was sad.
Straight
yeah,
up.
I mean, let's go for it. Let's go for it.
I was too.
The way that they said goodbye to him, I don't think we've ever. Guys, help me out here. Have they ever killed
Never.
a Bond before?
No.
Fake
I don't
death.
think so.
Fake,
I looked it
fake
up, I
one, but
read it,
never.
it's like-
No.
Yeah, they have done fake. I think they have injured somebody really bad, but then like said, somehow he lived through it, kind of thing. And they have definitely done the fake out before.
Yeah.
But I mean, folks, you're gonna see James Bond get absolutely blown to smithereens at the end of this movie, and
Yeah.
it was really unsettling watching your heroes.
The funniest thing was I came home and I, like, my wife and her mother were there, and I'm like, I don't want to ruin this, but like they killed him, and they're like, oh yeah, they kill him all the time. I'm like, no, they really
He's
like
fucking-
there's no cutaway, there's no ambiguous, like, maybe that one's back. No.
So let's just say what it is, you guys. Let me just get this off my chest here, because I'm totally in support, and as we all are, everything that's really happening on the scene is really cool socially. The expectations of trying to get him away from being such a traditionally misogynistic character, yeah, like I'm totally about embracing that. But James Bond did represent an archetype, like probably more prominently than anyone else for that kind of male character. His toughness, his certainty, his lack of disregard for we can praise it or criticize it for whatever it's worth, but it was him. So watching him kind of be in a movie where they were clearly taking him, trying to justify all the ways to bring his humanity to the surface and then use that as a reason to destroy him, there was something unsettling about it. I'm not saying I was against it. I'm not saying I thought it was bad. It was very moving.
It really hit you in the
It's
feels.
just,
Yeah.
It left me in a really weird place. I kind of felt like I was saying goodbye to, in a very tangible way, to to something that I guess society has decided they don't want anymore. I don't think James Bond is coming back in the way that we recognize James Bond. I've read a bunch of articles. They haven't announced anyone.
If
There's all
you,
these theories,
yeah,
of course,
like
about
because
who could.
if you watch the credits long enough, it does say James Bond will return.
Yeah, and I'm sure there could
Not
be
that
some
one, I'm
interesting
sure, but-
spinoff, but not this one. I just don't know if it'll ever be what it was, and I totally get it. Maybe I shouldn't feel weird about that. Maybe I should be like, "Good, fuck him. I'm glad he's dead." But it got me when I walked out.
Yeah,
I was
nah.
like,
This-
something
that was-
feels. I feel like I just lost something. I feel
I
like.
mean,
Did you guys feel that way?
No, I absolutely, I felt exactly the same way. I was because the whole, and the point is, this is such a great story. Like not a moment of film is wasted in this, mind you. Like there is like development, character development. You know how I always talk about like are certain scenes superfluous or useless. There is not a single wasted moment of film in this entire 2 hours and 43 minutes. So by the time you get to the end, you've gone on this journey with him. You're all in, and then it gets to that moment, and you're like, oh fuck, is he just gonna give up? Is he gonna break? Is like, and then he.
And the entire thing, what you were saying at the beginning too about like the transition into the song, Carrie Fukunaga clearly understood, as did everyone involved, that like we're dealing with the last one, so it's not going to be the kick-ass opening Casino Royale, Bond is back, baby, boom. It's not going to feel like that. We were saying goodbye to him the entire time. They were introducing us to seeing him from a distance the entire time. This is not a criticism, but I just think it's interesting that they chose to, as the story moved further and further, you kind of slipped further and further away from him and began to observe him as a man struggling in this saga, not as your friend kick-ass James Bond that you can trust is going to make it no matter what. That faith you have in a hero protagonist that they're going to make it, you start to lose that as you already, I mean, going into this, you know they're going to do something, but you start to lose that storytelling wise. The only question I'll put to you guys, I think I'm okay with it because the catharsis was so powerful, but they broke a Bond rule at the very end of this movie to justify his choice to die. In every other Bond sense, you name it, he's found a way out of the problem or around the problem, or they have introduced it as a new obstacle. So if at the end of this movie, this nanobot viral threat that basically kills everything and attaches to certain kinds of DNA, they have figured out a plot device so that he can no longer be around his, total spoiler alert, turn this fucking podcast off if you don't want to hear me talking to details here. He can no longer see his not his wife, but his lover, Jeff, what's her name? Seydoux? Leia Seydoux. Seydoux. And his child. There is a child that comes into the works here. So this movie ends building up to this realization that James Bond has that he can no longer see them, touch them. He can see them, he just can't touch them. And they thought that that was strong enough for him to choose to not pull a James Bond and figure out some crazy secret way to escape in the last 30 seconds, the way he did in every other movie in Bond history. So I know that sounds crazy, but they pulled it off in like every other movie. So did it frustrate you? Did it feel a little plotty, or were you totally okay with it because it was just it landed for you emotionally?
I was waiting for he's going to get out of this somehow. They're going to get out of this somehow, and I feel like it was a better choice to have him do what he did. That really worked for me.
Yeah, I think so too. I think what's interesting is what they didn't do. I hate when we mention Game of Thrones on here because it makes it seem like we've seen like one series.
No, dude, it's a good. We all know what you're talking about. Yeah.
One thing that Thrones does is it plants seeds that will come up like next year, next episode, next season, 5 seasons from now, and the reason that he can't. This is all new to this story. So that was kind of surprising for me, where like he calls Q and he's like, is there any other way? And Q's like, there's no other way. And it's like, yeah, because he told you half an hour ago. You know what I mean? So it was weird that it was like, it's not like they wrote him into an inevitable thing over like the course of time. So it was interesting that the reason he had to die was very specific to this movie. So that was a little unsettling for me. But at the same time, the relationships and that's who he is now, because in the past he would have just said, oh well, guess I can't see them again, And the fact that he can't do that anymore, I thought was justified. So my conundrum did lead me to be very hard. I was heartbroken, but at the same time, I was very, very grateful. I did have a lot of gratitude. So yes, there was a part of me when I was riding my city bike home in the middle of the night that I was like, is this, I am curious if this is Barbara Broccoli's kind of way of saying like, well, everybody else has decided what they think the best course for Bond is in the Twitterverse since the last film came out in 2015. You have a lot of people who say Bond should be this, Bond should be a woman, Bond shouldn't be Bond, maybe it's 007, but it's, you know, and so they did that in the movie anyway, where you had
Lashana.
She's new.
Lashana Lynch.
Lashana Lynch. You got crazy amount of entrance applause in the theater that I was at in New York City on Friday night. So she's awesome. She's 007. I actually loved the idea that she gave it back and that Bond didn't ask for it back. I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
That he was like, I'm okay with that. And she's like, you should have it. But also he wasn't the kind of person that would have been like, no, I don't need it. You know what I mean? It was cool the way they did that. Yeah. So this was great. But as far as what's coming next, I am wondering if the Broccoli's are almost sitting there going, okay, you want to fuck with Bond? You want to make your own Bonds? Then we're going to kill Bond. And, or if they were just like, if this is just sort of collateral damage to that, and that has nothing to do with why they did it. Maybe Daniel Craig wanted to do it, and they said, okay, Daniel, you earn the right to die. Like,
well, I mean, the thing is, with all of this, I feel like they got to the end of the story they wanted to tell, because this was all connected. All of the Craig movies were connected in some way, and it was a story they wanted to tell. So I kind of feel a bit sorry for any character that was built up in this, because we might not see them again when new producers and everyone takes over. They recast Bond. You may not see some of these characters again because they're in that like incarnation of the story. They may move on and do this.
I'm sure you guys have read. We've all heard lots of rumors, but the one that I kept coming across, that I had heard that Ana de Armas might be a female 00 in the future, and they might like float between a few different women.
She's not British, though.
I don't know. I could see them spinning off something like that.
But they wrote.
I know, but I really don't know if that's going to matter, dude. Like if I hear, you hear so many people talking about post-colonial, storytelling and mindsets and trying to get rid of this stuff.
Anybody who's listening to this hasn't seen the movie. I mean, in the movie, she's not British. In the movie, she's not. Unless she comes out, and Bond does not do a Squid Game and say,
pop culture reference.
Oh, actually, she was British. They don't do stuff like that. So they introduced her as somebody from the Caribbean.
She was working for the CIA.
Cuban? She's Cuban?
Yeah.
She's Cuban, but she was working for the CIA.
Right, but they're not going to be like, oh, she's a 00 because she was actually British and 00 the whole time. Like they wouldn't do that.
No, I mean, I could see them. I don't know, you guys. I just feel like, it was interesting. I kind of felt like, when I was saying it kind of felt like you were getting further and further away from him. Again, there was a bittersweetness to it. I don't want it to sound like a criticism.
I mean, I
did notice that. I was thinking like he started kind of becoming. It was almost like the character of Bond kind of became a vehicle for them to elevate the other characters around him. And I'm not opposed to the idea of it, but there was a little bit of me, and I'm just trying to be honest here. There was a little bit of me that wanted to be a little bit closer to him, just because we've had so much fun with him. So to have him kind of become that vehicle or that prop for the other ones to have more of the limelight, it did feel a little, I don't know. Did y'all feel that at all? Did it feel
I feel like
that to you at all?
I mean,
or am I way off here?
I interpreted it a little differently. Like they Austin powered him. They made him a relic of an agency that's moved on, and he has to deal with coming back into that agency. They literally Austin powered him.
And they've been doing that for 3 movies now.
Yeah.
They did it.
Yeah, they definitely did that in Skyfall first, right? That was the first time they like really leaned into that.
And they kept saying you're too old.
But I thought that one. But why did that one? Why was that one?
But in this one, he's like gone, retired.
Skyfall,
He's got a different number. Like, well, they've given his number away, and so like he's out completely, and he comes back, and everything works differently. And M's doing some shit he shouldn't be doing.
As much as I didn't love, but as much as I think we all had some issues with Skyfall, and I've rewatched it like at least twice just to be like, why didn't I respond to that one as strongly? The thing I will say it does though is that to play that old dog new tricks relic kind of thing, they did figure out a way with the script to bring you into his story even more by presenting a past that we didn't know, showing where he was showing how he got brought into the training and everything as a young man, a kid. So I thought there was a way that they brought him in that was interesting. I don't think this one did that. And I don't think they were, it's not like they failed. They did not want to do that. This whole movie was us slowly kind of waving goodbye as James Bond disappears on a boat.
It was definitely
a giant explosion.
It was definitely a victory lap, but they did it better than Avengers.
I was going to ask you about that, Dave, because the only other time this has really happened in recent history that we can all point to, there you go, is the classic death of Tony Stark. I'm Iron Man. Boom. Goodbye. He's actually dead. You think this one landed better for you than that one? I didn't know you had issues with that one, honestly.
Yeah, I had a few issues with Endgame, but on a rewatch, it's a lot better. But yeah, I feel like this did it better because I don't know, it just hit you in the feels. Like when Tony Stark went out, it was a yes moment. When Bond goes out, it's like a like it was like you lost a distant family member. Like
I didn't feel that way about Tony. Dave, do you feel like because of what Jeff said earlier, you like this one more or less? Like, why are you responding that way? Jeff, you said it really well about how this happened in this movie. I think one reason I've always responded well to Tony Stark's death is because through the Avengers movies and some of the other ones, they allude quite often to his vision of death in the future. He sees that he has to do it eventually, and they have a long arc where they finally take you there, and then they tease you in the beginning of Endgame with him thinking he's actually going to die on that spaceship, and that's it. So I feel like they really stretch it out so that when it finally comes there, you know what it means to Tony.
You
because he's not realizing
you misinterpreted that vision though. Like that's not him dead. That's everyone else dead, and him standing there over them.
I didn't misinterpret it. I think it's him realizing that death is going to be required, and that's when they start introducing. I can't remember who says it. I think it's Captain America where he says, "Are you going to be able to make the call?" Yeah, everyone keeps, there's all these breadcrumbs of how Tony is realizing somebody's going to have to make the tough call at the end of this somehow. So I feel like they did a really good job of that. I think I agree with you, Jeff. This one did feel like it was so trapped in the plot of this movie that it kind of felt like they decided to kill Bond with an explosion at the end of this one, as opposed to they have been earning a very organic exit for Daniel Craig at the end of this one.
And to be fair to the Broccoli's, there was no guarantee that he was coming back for a fifth.
I don't think he wanted to come back for this one, right?
When he did Spectre, he probably left the door open a little bit. Like, he didn't say, like, I refuse to come back. He got Sam Mendes to do a second movie, and I have a feeling that they did it kind of thinking it might be it at 4 because I
know they did because he made a press release, and he said, after Spectre, he said, I never want to do one of these movies again. If I do, it'll be because of the money. He said that in a quote. So he didn't want to come back and do this one. So it doesn't matter. I don't want to sound like I'm overly critical.
Yeah,
if I am, I think it's only because I'm sad.
If we're going to get overly critical, let's talk about Rami Malek.
Short screen time again. I was
short screen time. Also, I was a little.
I was late to the game there. Hold on. I can't just slide that one through. What issues did you have with Mr. Malek?
I thought he was great, and he was very creepy.
Yeah.
Like his creepiness was awesome, but like his menace didn't come through until he was basically terrorizing that little girl, Lisa Duran Sonnet, and her ability to look terrified and burst into tears and like when her mother's leaving and stuff like that. I feel like that elevated his menace. So if he wins an award for this,
because I don't even think he was that
her.
menacing in that scene.
He wasn't until like that. Until you saw with the girl's reaction, that little girl pulled that off beautifully for me. But I was a little unclear what the end game was for him. Like, because I know it began about revenge, and then it turned into something else, and they were kind of ambiguous. It's like, why is this still happening? Like, he got the revenge he wanted. What?
And I think this leads back to the Bond thing, how this was specific to this movie, where it's about, there's a lot of family, obviously, so bond with his family. That parallel was being drawn in more than why he wants to kill people around the world. So it's almost like they were yada-yadaing that. And I actually wonder if Spectre got to them, because I think they really wanted to expand this and make this kind of like the Syndicate in Mission Impossible with Spectre, and they had all the agents and all the people, and they did a good Red Wedding thing for them in this movie, and I thought that was really well done. I loved the humor in this movie. We can have a whole section about that, but that the scientist, the way he humorly like yada yada our way through some really heavy shit, including the entire everybody dying. Like, he basically did that with humor, and we were like, holy fuck, that just happened. And I kind of, Rami, it's almost like they didn't want to try that again, because Spectre just didn't land with a lot of people. And so they were like, well, let's just kill Spectre off. And it's like, okay, well, where did Rami get the funding for this? Who is he working for? What is the point of the terrorist organization? Is it just him? And him and the guy with the eye? Like,
I know. I know he inherited a lot of stuff from
that.
his dad. That was a quick throwaway line.
Who is his dad?
But yeah,
who is dad's network? Like, yeah, they kind of hinted at it, but in the
so
old Bond, they would have just said he was a KGB, and then they defected and formed their own.
Yeah, they didn't really flesh him out, and I feel like everyone would have responded to his character better if they'd fleshed him out a little.
And because they did
totally agree, especially because he had such a sweet cold open.
The cold open was cool.
I was very affected by the cold open.
And I actually wish in the scene, and this might be Carrie, it might be the editor, but he was looking at her, and he was like, we're the same. And I guess we were supposed to not believe him, but we could have given him some more slack, and we could have made him more human and still been creeped out by him, if that makes sense. I think he could have bit harder if it wasn't so obvious that he was a creep. Does that make sense? Like, if he actually was like, look, we're the same, and by the way, I torture children. Like, I think that's like, huh.
Yeah, he needed 2 layers, not the one.
And I'm not shaming him or anything, but I do think that the villain could have been. The villain was not a 10.
No, I think I agree with you. And it's ironic.
I'll bless myself.
I think my favorite villain. Well, we love what's his name, of course, from Casino Royale. What's his name, you guys? We love him so much.
Mads Mikkelsen.
Mads.
Yeah, fucking Mads.
The Chief is
best movie, probably the best villain just because of that.
My favorite
Bardem.
My favorite villain is Philip Seymour Hoffman. No, wait, that's Mission Impossible.
That's Mission Impossible.
That's Mission Impossible. Fuck you guys. God damn it.
John, back to
Javier Bardem.
Oh, come on. You guys argued it was better than Star Wars.
Javi did a good job.
You're going to bring that up
Javi
again?
Javi did
your fucking beer, you fucking lazy mother.
Javi did a good job, and you saw you really could see what he was trying to do. Javi.
And it's just the way that role was written. Like, there was a madness in the character. This one kind of felt to me like, Jeff, we talked about this in acting. When people are approaching roles, especially when you're teaching actors, younger actors, how to approach, how much do you affect a character with stuff that's not literally necessary, that you don't see from the page? This is one of those, and I know Rami Malek kind of has a little bit of the strangeness to him already, but I do feel like this didn't exist on the page for me. It was justified with Javier Bardem's character. He explained his madness, the way he flirted and tried to. There was a sexual aspect that brought in something really interesting at the beginning. There was a madness because of his physical deformity and his obsession with M. And this one, I don't think, when I was, because sometimes I was sitting there watching him and I was thinking, the way this is written on the page, I just don't know if he needs to be trying to play it that way. And I'm just curious, if Cary Fukunaga was my best friend, and he could tell me things he wouldn't tell anybody else, I would have asked him, like, when you cast him, did he do that? Or did you guys talk about that? Or did he come to set doing something kind of strange and you were just like, well, I guess he's going to do that and let's just go with it and hopefully it'll work? Because I think it could have been interesting to have a very normal person play the last, not normal, but a human that has a basic revenge story that isn't from the KGB and doesn't have this crazy physical affectation, that is just somebody his entire family was killed, and there isn't no bigger picture scheme. It's just revenge, and that's it. Super simple. I wonder if it wouldn't have clouded his story or his characterization as much.
Yeah, I also wonder, was there more to that character, and it was cut to bring it down to 2 hours 43 minutes?
I think there must have been, right?
Yeah.
There must have been.
Are we going to get a director's cut of this thing?
What his dad's... I hope so. What do you think his dad did? Like, his dad, they told us a little bit. We got to see that he was manufacturing that stuff. Clearly, he was involved. with the manufacturing and the distribution of chemical weapons and stuff. But there could have been a whole scene that could have justified all of that stuff, and it just wasn't there.
And
I
what
still
the
enjoyed
fuck
it.
was in that water?
I wasn't frustrated.
Yeah, what was in that water?
What the hell was in that water? Guys, they loved that last set, didn't they? They
Yeah.
loved that last
They
set.
loved
They
that
filmed
last
there
set.
a lot,
That
didn't
sounds
they?
cool. That's why I can't
I
believe
mean,
they
one
didn't
of
do
my
climax.
what, like I think the thing that made my theater laugh the most was when Q was giving him directions on how to start up the power, and he's like, "You got to be very careful." And he's just fucking flicking switches, like, got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's spread the wealth a little bit. Daniel Craig Rami, yeah. Ana de Armas was just a 10 out of 10, just nailed it. Not just looks, obviously, but like the way her performance just fucking knocked it out of the park. Character,
Her performance
art.
really did knock it out of the park.
She's a Bond girl, and I said 10 out of
It's a
10.
shame she's only in it for 15 minutes.
It really is, because she was so fucking good and did it with class, and the tone, the humor that they were already building into it. I thought the scientist did a great job. He had a great arc for, you know, which would be a pretty, you know, kind of shticky role. Ray Fiennes as M has a moral conundrum, and Ben Whishaw gets a lot more screen time in this than in other movies. Even though the hacker thing is always weird in these movies, because we know that we have to give them some rope, that they can't just be like, oh look, hidden files, oh look there, okay, here's all the answers that you need in 10 seconds. We know that that's not realistic, but maybe him being the only person on the technical team that goes abroad, maybe, like, you know, we forgive a lot because he's so fucking charming. I think they get away with it. Can we shout out some of the Moneypenny? Can we shout out some of the other characters that made this movie good? What do you think about Ray Fiennes? Let's stay with Ray Fiennes. What do you think about his little conundrum and how he dealt with it?
Yeah, it was kind of good to see him go off the rails a little.
Well, the idea is this whole, you don't know who to trust. Politicians are debating each other all the time. Nobody trusts intelligence.
Yeah.
And then Ray Fiennes is admittedly an untrustworthy character, because he's like, I can't share this information with people because they wouldn't, you know what I mean? So
it's like I've been in this job for quite some time, and now I'm making bad choices.
He literally can't tell his bosses, the Congress, that he has this weapon that he's producing, because if it's in the wrong hands, you know.
Yeah.
Which it ended up getting in
It was nice seeing him. There was a vulnerability too, because he wasn't the stuffy politician. Or he's not a politician. He's not a bureaucrat. What would you call the head of the CIA or the head of the FBI? They're not politicians. They work in intelligence. So he's a really high level intelligence officer.
But he's not an appointee though. Like, there are political appointees at the heads of these agencies sometimes, but I feel like he is an insider that worked his way up. So he's like the highest position before the appointee is what I would guess.
Yeah, but it was nice to see someone in that position, an archetype of that role, admitting and living in their mistake.
Yeah.
So James calls him out about,
he fucked up.
Maybe a third, halfway through the movie, and he owns it. And so for the rest of the movie, Rafe has an interesting arc, because it's him realizing now he's just trying to manage this enormous mistake he made, and he doesn't play him like a bumbling idiot that doesn't understand intelligence the way they could have done it.
He absolutely plays him like a man trapped.
Doesn't play it. Yeah, he doesn't play it like he's like stuffy, like, you know, guys in my position don't make mistakes, figure it out, Bond. It doesn't turn to that at all. So there's a vulnerability there too. I do appreciate that. The geopolitical scope was realistic and frightening. That at the end of this movie, Ray Fiennes was very aware that he was sitting in a chair making a decision that could start the next war.
Yeah.
And he realized that he had put himself there. So I do think that he took that on. So much of that was covered in mediums and close-ups. Very simple scene work, just sitting in a chair, dealing with it. But you know what? He's an A+ actor, and they wrote something more complicated than they could have, and I think it worked.
Yeah, I was happy to see that level from him. Like, because normally he's a secondary character that turns up, looks a bit stuffy, and walks off. And they really, like, for something that was essentially like a final appearance, they gave everyone a lot to work with.
It almost made me worried, though, that he wouldn't be back for the next installment, because it's almost like they gave him too much baggage. But he did end the movie with back to work, so we'll see. Who knows? Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I don't think he's coming back. Léa Seydoux was
perfect.
Lovely, wonderful.
Perfect.
Yeah.
She's kind of one of those actors where you're just like, is she acting? Like, I know she's, she's done other things. She has a full resume, but like, did they just find that woman in James Bond's life and then point a camera at her? Like, it just seems, it's just so effortless. And you know what? I think let's just say what it is. I think a lot of quote Bond girls are just so so supposed to be just so sexy, like the sex appeal is supposed to dominate everything, but this woman doesn't come off that way at all.
This
She's
was a
beautiful,
Bond. Yeah, this was
of
a Bond
course,
woman.
but she's got so much substance.
True.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, really touching. I liked Lashana Lynch.
She's great. She was
Honestly,
really great.
I wanted more. I thought this movie, based on the early trailers, was going to have way more of the spy versus spy kind of thing between her and James, kind of going back and forth. I liked the end product, but I could have had a couple more scenes with her doing her thing. I wouldn't have minded seeing her recon. She goes on a mission by herself that we don't get to watch. She just brings information. I wouldn't have minded seeing her just for a little bit, figuring it out, just because I thought she was so good.
Yeah, that'll be in the 5-hour director's cut.
Ben was good.
Ben is so
I
charming.
want to take a minute as well to talk about Linus Sandgren.
So charming.
Okay, go ahead.
He's the cinematographer of this.
Yeah.
I saw this in IMAX, and the stuff he did with the IMAX camera was amazing, especially like even during some of the action scenes, because like an IMAX camera is not easy to wield in an action scene. And he did this phenomenal thing with the camera, which like not a lot of cinematographers know to do, which is like, because my biggest complaint, I think, from Skyfall was like the opening sequence. You couldn't see a fucking thing. The camera's running around everywhere.
Like on a train.
Yeah,
and
like there's a whole car chase as well. Like you just can't see anything. And this, I'm not sure if it was him operating the camera, but whoever was operating the camera was phenomenal, because they would literally match the movement of the person that they wanted you to focus the attention on. So if that person's moving the frame, they'd match their movement for a second, so your eye would grab them.
Hijack your eyes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this guy, let's talk.
But that's a really hard thing to do, because there's that, and then the flash motion, then they match someone else. And it's like a whole different level of fucking camera choreography. Like, that is really hard to do.
It reminded me of fucking David Lynch films. I don't know if you're like his cinematography just follows every single movement a character makes, just like the human eye. Linus is got a really great episode with the Deacons podcast, Team Deacons. If you want to listen to
cool.
that,
I didn't know he had that. I'll
his
look at
work.
that.
That's
does.
cool.
He talks about his work on First Man and La La Land and American Hustle, everything. But he's no stranger to big technical challenges. But clearly, such an artist.
He's a new favorite for me.
Oh man, he's the shit, dude. He's the shit. And this is one of those examples where like I didn't think once about how good and beautiful the cinematography was.
Yeah,
nailed it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I never once was like, how did he get that?
I did a couple of times because I have to talk about it on this podcast.
Yeah, I mean, if I wanted to, I could have. But in terms of story, everything was so well composed, so well exposed. So the movement was just so in line with what was happening and motivated from character that you just go along for the fucking ride from beginning to end, which I do think is saying a lot, since we're used to seeing a different kind of Bond movie. Structurally, the chases, maybe some handy cam every now and then when we're running around with them and stuff. So this felt different in a lot of
I cannot
technical ways as well.
Cannot wait to get my hands on the special features for this, actually, to see how some of this stuff was done.
Yeah,
I want to see the Norway.
I need to go.
sequences,
I'm going
like
to see it again, you guys.
I want to see like the Norway sequences, like in the jungle or whatever, like all of that stuff, like in the woods. I would love to see how they shot that, because it's at night too. Or at least the sun is setting.
Yeah.
I would love to see that. So I think, overall it came out that so much about this was so good. Thankfully, what saves Rami, because that's the trickiest thing, is the villain. What does the villain want? We forgive it in the theaters, but I'm worried about the rewatch. The same way that Skyfall, I was like, oh, I thought the dialogue writing was cleaned up in this compared to some of the other of these post.
Yeah.
The past three.
I feel like this is my second favorite now after Casino Royale.
I think it is for me too. I think it is for me too. And I think that the Rami gets saved, even though we were critical, and I think that we were right about that, and we're not the only ones that said that. I think because of the cold open with Leah when she was young, Leah, her character, and then later, with the therapist in the office, and here's the perfume, and they put her into a similar situation as Vesper Lynn, where she's kind of deceiving Bond, but she has to because she doesn't have a choice. Yeah, it's a mini version of that, and I think that Rami gets pulled off because of the triangulation that he does. So I think ultimately I'm gonna forgive the fact that he's not. They just didn't give him
They didn't flesh him out a lot. Yeah,
Dave, we didn't mention this at all, but Rami's almost kind of like who's the guy in Winter Soldier that pulls them together, and he's in the TV show with them as well.
Oh,
I think
Craig,
that character,
Craig,
Zemo.
fuck.
Zemo. Yeah,
Baron Zemo.
it's kind of like they were going for that. Like they were trying to spin it a little bit so
Yeah.
that we would actually end up concentrating more on the other characters.
Only,
But
only that
Randy's
guy's a better
character really
dancer.
wasn't the crux of it.
Yeah.
But anyway, I agree everything we said, Jeff. I don't think it ruined the movie for any of us at all. It is not that serious. You're still
Nope.
going to enjoy this thing a lot.
I walked
If
out
you're
of
a
this
Bond
thing.
fan, I think you're going to be happy, but you're going to be sad. I'm
I was
telling you, you're going to be sad.
I was like, I walked into this. I'm like, I have ambiguous feelings about this because like Bond can be hit and miss sometimes, and I walked out of this thing like, holy fuck,
That's why
that
I
was
said
worth it.
We know when it comes to like what has endured the most, this is the franchise that takes the cake. It beats Star Wars, it beats MCU's up there, I guess. Like, you know, the ones that if endurance is part of the metric, but for us, we couldn't get over the fact that we saw some Bond movies that were some slugs, you know, compared to the rest of the canon at least. But yeah, that's where I am. So I guess we might as well wrap it up with
we should
maybe some Bond predictions. What do you think?
Oh yeah, who's gonna be next? Do you think?
We can give a couple suggestions. For instance, I think like we should maybe a female, male, maybe you know.
I don't know anyone they've got their eye on for female because everyone's kind of like, if you're gonna do female Bond, then make it something else. Like, because like this whole.
Well, they killed Bond, so that's what I was saying before. Well, it's like they killed him. Maybe this is their way of being like, okay, if we, I don't know. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I mean, yeah, I'm in two minds about that. I mean, it'd be fun to see. Like they swapped Doctor Who for a woman two seasons ago, and it is hands down the best Doctor Who I've ever seen. So I don't know. My eyes are open on this one. I'll take it or leave it. But some of the other suggestions that are out there are, I don't know whether you've seen the series Outlander.
I have. Sam
Ewan. He like it'll be the first Scottish Bond since Connery. He's in the running. He's like as far as like
he's in our running. Like he's not.
He's on lists all over the internet, dude. Also, Reggie Jean Page from Bridgerton is also in the running.
Reggie Jean Page, I would say, is in the top. He's in the top canon for that.
I would say he's in the top 3 because the other 2 are Tom Hardy and Henry Cavill.
There's no way it's either of them. They're in other franchises, so I really just don't see the Rock
like
doing that.
In this day and age, people are handing franchises over like crazy.
All right, no way is exaggerated, but I think. First of all, Lashana is a possibility. They could just give it to her. They did it to Daniel Craig, so why does it have to be somebody that's, you know...
That is true. Like, and I'd be on board. I'd go see that.
I think she got entrance applause in my theater because people were saying, God, I hope it's just her. That's what I think. I think, for me... So obviously, there's a huge call for a person of color. People keep saying Idris Elba. Idris Elba would have been the great choice.
Idris Elba is saying, are you fucking kidding me? Yeah.
Idris Elba said, as soon as Daniel Craig was cast, that was it for me. What was wrong with you people?
Yeah.
Because he's 50 as well. For that though, I think if maybe we're gonna go back and forth between, you know, your classy Bond and maybe a more sluggish Bond, I think Riz Ahmed would be a great choice. He's British, and
ooh, that's interesting.
I think that would be very, very.
I could get down with Riz.
So small. He's so little.
Who gives a shit? They could change. They'll change everything to make it work.
I mean, to be honest, I would the most.
Tom Cruise is little.
The most, yeah, that's true. And they've showed it in one movie. I think the one I would lean towards most would be Henry Cavill because he can do a season of The Witcher whenever he wants.
Right.
And that's the only franchise he's involved with really because DC keeps just fucking things around. So
yeah, Reggie Jean Page.
He is ripe for stepping into Bond.
I actually watched some of Bridgerton. I wish my mom didn't ask me to start watching it like at episode 5 for anybody that actually watched Bridgerton with her. Bad timing. I should have watched it from the beginning. But Daniel Craig did Layer Cake and Munich before this movie. So to anybody who's like, where do they choose him from? It's like, do your homework because like obviously Bridgerton is not the best. Like he better screen test the fuck out of this role if he's going to get it. Because even though he checks all the boxes, 5 films, 15 years... arcs, like I don't know. I know Riz can do it. I know Henry Cavill can do it. Tom Hardy can do it. There are others. I think
I'm gonna say
Daniel
Tom's out of the running.
I think Daniel Kaluuya could do it. Like there's a lot of people that could do it.
Like and Tom's out of the running because Venom is just taken off with this sequel. So
just
I'm pretty sure
scheduling,
I'm pretty sure Tom's out. Because
John, what do you think? You're not. Yeah, I think he's out too.
I think ultimately I think that they are probably waiting to see what happens to the response of how they chose to walk away from this one. And
Yeah.
I'm sure they're going to talk to focus groups and see how people responded to Lashana Lynch and Ana de Armas. I think I wouldn't be surprised if either of them takes over, or any of these guys. I don't really have any stake in it, but it would, as much fun as it would be to see them go a completely different direction. I think I'm going to be totally okay with it as long as the Broccoli's are still heavily involved, because I don't want the tone of these movies to change.
Yeah.
I hate to call it out already before having seen it, but that movie that I'm sure you guys saw a trailer for with the women in the intelligence agency,
355?
Jessica Chastain, Lupita.
Or 325,
Yeah, it just doesn't.
Lupita would be great.
Lupita would be great. With open eyes.
Lupita would be great.
I'm just saying that movie doesn't look very good. So I hope that the tone of this movie, sure, whatever.
Yeah.
I hope if they're going to switch into,
I'm not saying you're wrong.
Woman or a woman or a person of color. I just want it to still. I don't want them to feel like they have to change the entire franchise, the tone and the art direction, the feel. I don't want them to feel like they have to change everything just because they're changing the look of the protagonist. That would be a little upsetting to me, but maybe I need to change too, and maybe that's my lesson to learn.
They'll come out with what they come out with, and I mean, they're in a good place right now. Like they really finished on a high, in my opinion.
Just like SNL.
Daniel Craig, dude. Let's give it up.
Just like SNL has Lorne Michaels, who is in, without SNL, who was he before? Now he does 30 Rock and etc. But like, they just needed that. Barbara Broccoli, this is all she has to think about. So I think she's going to consult the right people and make the right choice.
And I trust her.
Male, any ethnicity, I think they're going to make a choice that is going to give us a really fucking interesting, awesome next film.
Can't wait.
You're right. And we'll be there. We'll be there to check it out. Yeah.
Cannot wait.
All right, people. If anybody's still listening, I'm kidding. Recommendations.
Your train's probably at work, but just blow off your work. Keep listening.
Recommendations. What have you guys been watching the week of Bond coming out? I watched Skyfall, which I sort of mentioned, but anything else, Dave?
Yeah, I saw two things. I saw the movie Voyages, which is a sci-fi about like 2063. Earth is done pretty much, and they're sending a group of kids off on a generational mission to get a new planet. I wouldn't say I recommend it, but it's on HBO.
Okay.
Yeah. No, but I also one thing I will recommend though, and my wife put me onto it. Miracle Workers. It's a series on Hulu.
Workers.
Yeah, it's basically it's almost like it's like an episode of What If. It's like, what if God was the dude? It's Steve Buscemi and Daniel Radcliffe,
right?
And it is fucking hilarious. Like, I've seen 2 episodes, and oh my god. Like, God is more... Just Steve Buscemi is playing God, and he's this absolute fucking deadbeat who's obsessed with placing bets. And,
nice.
Yeah. Enough said. Just give it a look. That one is hilarious.
I love it.
And Daniel Radcliffe is great in it.
Yeah. Fuck it. Make Daniel Radcliffe
I watched...
Let's go. A 5 and 10
Get age into it.
Let's go. John?
Expecto I watched.
That was way funnier than it should have been.
Thanks. That liter of beer helped lubricate that comedy. I think.
I've only drunk 3
I
quarters.
watched the problem with Apu, that documentary talking with what is that comedian's name, you guys?
Gilbert Gottfried.
His name is not Gilbert Gottfried.
You were very generic in your question.
Hari Kondabalu.
Sorry, same movie. I'm so sorry. Apu?
Harry,
oh my God, no! The
Harry
Simpsons. Oh my God,
Kondabalu?
can somebody buzz me so that I don't?
Yeah,
we don't
no,
have to
I got
cut
you.
this out. Just
I got you.
Make me feel like an asshole. I'm so sorry, everybody.
I didn't know his comedy, but I want to watch this for one of my classes and read some articles about it and stuff. It was I remember when this came out on HBO Max. If you're interested in these kinds of ethical dilemmas and some of the casting changes that are happening as we adjust to very reasonable, not racist expectations, this is a good watch to just give you some insight into why an entire community of people were just terrorized by Hank Azaria playing Apu for the entire fucking run of The Simpsons until like 2 years ago. I'm also reading, I'll just throw this out there because it's a movie thing. I'm reading Akira Kurosawa's autobiography, and it's awesome.
Jesus.
It's just going through his movies at this point, about halfway through, and it's really cool. If you're a Kurosawa
and
fan,
in case anyone hasn't caught on yet, John's at film school.
Yeah, that one's for pleasure.
Yeah,
the book is for pleasure.
Yeah, fair. That's fair.
Hilarious. I watched a good chunk of Squid Game. I started it on Friday on a bus on a commute, and yeah, I've been thinking about it ever since. So I'm chunking away.
I actually finished it on Friday.
And
holy crap, dude! Yeah, like there's a reason it's number one.
It's violent as fuck. Everybody knows, but I think even more than the Hunger Games, which is it's like a comparison, Hunger Games for adults. Even more, you can tell there's some messages, there's some shit that they're talking about that makes all of the violence where you're watching this and you're like.
All I'd heard was episode 6 fucked me up, and I got to episode 6 and I was expecting gory violence, and it's not what you think at all.
Which game was it? Because I watched.
It's Marbles.
I might have gotten up to 6. I watched Marbles. Yeah, I watched that.
Yeah.
I went through that one. Yeah.
Yeah, Marbles is fucked up, and it gets you real bad. So yeah.
All right. Man, they'll get it. They'll probably get a second. I don't. They'll do something. I'm sure.
They got to do something.
All right, people. Thank you so much for joining us for Bond. I can't wait to see you next week, guys. Anything before we go?
Nope.
That's all, man. Daniel Craig. Peace out.
Yeah. What a way to peace out.
Hope he's gonna be okay.
Yeah, he'll be fine.